Today I have 10 proverbs that native English speakers use every day. Now, of course, that doesn't mean you have to use them every day, but you might find that some of them are a direct translation from a proverb in your native language, so you may be able to use it exactly as you would in your own native language. To be completely honest with you, I don't use all of these every day, but you certainly find yourself in situations where you could say something like one of the proverbs I'm going to give you today. You can use this video just as listening practice. If you're practicing pronunciation, you can use it as a shadowing video. So every time I say the proverb, pause the video, repeat it after me and try and work on your pronunciation. Or you can just use it as an interesting video to find out a bit more about English language, English culture, and see how many similarities there are in the English language as there are in your language. So let's start with our very first one today, which is actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. If you're practicing pronunciation, pause the video and repeat after me. Actions speak louder than words. What this means, as it suggests, is that the way you act, the things you do, are louder, are more impactful, are more significant than the things you say you will do. For example, if I say, I'm going to do a live lesson every week, that's great, but there's no action to back that up. Whereas if I do a live lesson every week, there's my action. It's more impactful than my words. In your work, for example, you may have a colleague that promises 150 different things but never does them. So when they do them, their action is speaking louder than their words. Do you have this proverb in your language? Does it translate exactly, or is there a little difference? Our second one is one of my personal favorites, which is don't count your chickens before they hatch. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Now, what this means is don't get overexcited or plan for something that hasn't happened yet. Don't assume something will happen before it actually does. So, for example, you have 20 eggs. Your chicken has laid 20 eggs. Don't tell everyone you now have 20 chickens. Well, 21, including the mum chicken, because you don't know that all those eggs will become chickens. So, for example, if you go to an interview and it goes really well, don't go and buy yourself a whole new wardrobe for this new job because it hasn't happened yet. But likely, don't worry about something that hasn't happened yet. It's about living in the moment and preparing for what you can prepare for, but not worrying too much or panicking or making decisions before you have all the information. I like this one a lot, but sometimes when you translate it into another language, it doesn't make sense, and people think, why are English people counting chickens? The early bird catches the worm. The early bird catches the worm. Now, teachers at school used to say this all the time, because what it means is the person who wakes up early is more likely to be successful or have success. Or just have an advantage. It's not always about success being successful. You can wake up at midday but still be successful in your job. It's just about having an advantage over other people. For example, think about it. If there's 10 worms under a tree and there are 20 birds, the first 10 to wake up are going to eat that day. The 10 that wake up later, they won't find a worm. So it's the same thing. If you wake up early, you have an advantage. I do like waking up early, and I woke up early this morning because I wanted to record part of my business English course that I'm preparing. And I had an advantage because by waking up at 6 a.m., none of my neighbours were awake yet, so it was very quiet, and I had a very easy time recording because I didn't have to pause for outside sounds. Rome wasn't built in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day. There are two English proverbs that include Rome and Romans. The other one is, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, which I will go through later in the video. But this first one is, Rome wasn't built in a day. Now, think about Rome and how much impact it has on our history. It's a very powerful city. A lot of things were created in Rome. Sanitation, so how we take waste from the city to be cleaned and used for other things, that came from Rome. Roads came from Rome. Romans were the first people to build actual roads. Some elements of our legal system come from Rome. Newspapers started in Rome. So many things, including the postal service, started in Rome, which is why we always use Rome as kind of like an example of modern day society. So Rome wasn't built in a day means good things, impactful things, successful things take time. It takes more than one day. You cannot build that city in one day. It takes months, weeks, years, centuries. So we say this when we want to encourage someone that's thinking about giving up. Rome wasn't built in a day. Keep going. Your business will be successful. You will get your dream job. You will get that promotion. You have to keep working, keep going forwards, keep thinking about the possibility. The next one is very, very true, and we all need to remember it. But it's also very difficult in today's society because today's society suggests that we should always judge someone on first impression. Everything in our society is about how someone looks, what we think about them, what they're wearing, the way they present themselves. But the proverb is, don't judge a book by its cover, meaning a book can have a very boring cover, but the book itself can be really interesting, or the opposite. A book can be bright pink and have green writing and very splashy and in your face. But you read the book and it's really boring, it's very uninteresting. The same with people. We shouldn't judge them by how they are dressed, what they are wearing, what they look like, because we don't know what's going on up here. They could be the kindest person you've ever met, but they just dress a bit strange. A perfect example is bikers, like Harley Davidson groups. Typically, they wear a lot of black, leather, they have long hair, long beards, they look a bit rough, maybe, but you will find that bikers are some of the friendliest people you will ever meet. And there's a fantastic group in America who are a group of bikers, and they look quite scary when you see them, but actually they stand up for children's rights and they protect children from abusive parents or difficult situations. So this is a fantastic example of don't judge a book by its cover. Don't make an assumption on the way someone looks. Wait until you get to know them. Here's our Romans again. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Now this just means when you're in a new place, do as the local people do. Behave like the local people. Adapt to the customs of the people there. Accept the culture. Don't go to another place and expect them to be exactly like your city where you're from, but adapt. And this is to kind of give you more of an idea of what a country is like. So if you really want to know what Egypt is like, Thailand is like, France, Italy, you have to go to the places the local people eat. You have to hang out with the local people. You have to eat the snacks and the drinks and the dishes that they recommend, not the tourists recommend. So you might say this if someone is going on a vacation, a holiday. You might say, oh, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Try something different. Do something that is not in your culture, but it is in their culture. The grass is always greener. Now, the whole proverb is the grass is always greener on the other side, but it has been shortened over time to just the grass is always greener. And I have to remind myself of this one quite a lot because I have a habit of comparing myself to other people. The grass is always greener refers to the fact that if you are in this house and you're looking at your neighbor and they have a beautiful green garden, you look at your garden and you say, why is my garden not as green as theirs? You're comparing yourself to them, but you don't actually know what's going on in real life. Perhaps they have a leak, a flood under the ground, and it's costing them a lot of money, and that's why the grass is green. You're comparing yourself to people without knowing everything about them. For example, I might look at another YouTuber and say, oh, they've got more subscribers than me, they're better than me in every way, but they've been doing it for 10 years, and I've only been doing it for 2. Or perhaps, when we look at influential people, like I was going to list the CEOs of Facebook and Amazon, but actually I wouldn't describe them as influential. They're rich and successful, but maybe not influential. So when we look at people that are considered successful in society, we often think, oh, well, their life is better than mine because they've got all this money and success. But they may have failed their businesses 3 or 4 times before making a successful business. I have a student at the moment who's very interesting, and he was bankrupt 3 times in his life, but now he has a very successful business. So I might look at him initially and say, oh, he's rich, he's got money, he's successful, but I don't see what else has happened in his life. So don't compare yourself to others. And actually, the proverb is a little longer than we know it as. The grass is always greener on the other side. We could also say the grass is greener where we water it. So where we put the water, where we water our grass, it's going to be greener than where we don't water our grass, which means the grass is greener where you work on it, where you put in the hard work, where you try, where you take care, where you nurture something. A great example of this is relationships. A lot of people look at other relationships and say, oh, well, it's better than mine, so it must be more interesting, they must be more in love. But your relationship works when you work on it. So the grass is greener where you water it. If you stop working on something, the grass won't be green. It won't be as good. Better late than never. Better late than never. Now this is quite cheeky because what it's saying is, yes, I was late, but it's better that I was late than I didn't come. It's better to do something late than not at all. So if you're 10 minutes late to a meeting, you might say better late than never. It's better that I came rather than not come at all. I would be careful with this one because if you don't have a close relationship with the people you're saying it to, it could be seen as, okay, it's a bit cheeky, you shouldn't be late. But you could also tease a friend. If you agree to meet a friend at 1 p.m. and they come at 1:25, you might say, oh, better late than never. It's a way of teasing someone else. 2 heads are better than 1. 2 heads are better than 1. Now this means exactly as it suggests. If one person is thinking about something, that's only one brain, one set of ideas thinking about that thing. But when you have 2 people, you have 2 sets of eyes, you have 2 brains, you have 2 sets of ideas, 2 opinions. So that might help you come up with an idea more quickly, or a more successful idea, or a better idea. So if you're at work and you need a bit of help thinking about something, you've spent a long time thinking about this thing and you can't quite get the right answer. You might go to a colleague and say, would you mind helping me? 2 heads are better than 1. Or you might be a manager of a team and you ask your team to work together on something because After all, 2 heads are better than 1. It's just a way of saying the more people thinking about it, the easier it will be for us. And finally, what comes around goes around. What comes around goes around. Now, a lot of cultures, a lot of religions believe in karma. What you do will be returned to you. And this is that exact same idea. What I do today will be returned to me, maybe not tomorrow, but definitely in the future. If I treat people badly, that will come around and I will be treated badly. If I treat people well and I'm kind to people, it will come around and I will be treated well and I will be kind to people. No, sorry, people will be kind to me. So it's all about the way you treat others, and how you treat others will come back to you. And I believe in this 100% because I've seen it myself in my life. When I'm having a bad day, I'm angry, I'm stressed, I only meet other people who are angry, stressed. But when I'm calm and kind and smiley and welcoming, I meet good, kind, happy people. Today was a bit of a philosophical lesson as well for you. How many of these are similar in your language? And do you have any you can introduce to me from your language? There is a fantastic proverb. I know the scholar who came up with this was a Turkish scholar. And I think it's fantastic. I only heard about this a couple of weeks ago from a student, Turkish student. And it is that trees are not interested in how tall the other trees in the forest are. Trees are only interested in how tall they can grow. Let me say that again. Trees are not interested in how tall the other trees in the forest are. They are only interested in how tall they can grow. So the idea is stop paying attention to other people and focus on yourself. How can you grow? How can you improve? What can you do to be better today? And I love this in terms of learning a language, because often we lose motivation when we hear other people. Other people sound more fluent than us. Their pronunciation is better than us. They understand more than us. So we think, oh, I need to quit because I'm not as good as this person. But a tree would never stop growing just because another tree is taller than it. It would find a new way to grow so it can be just as tall, just as successful, just as nurtured as that tree. So I hope you find some motivation in today's video. I hope it was interesting for you. Do let me know down below if any of these are the same in your language. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.